Have you ever met someone who seemed just too perfect at first? An uncanny reflection of your own hopes, dreams, and desires? They mirrored your thoughts, finished your sentences, and presented an image of flawless compatibility. Yet, beneath that shimmering surface, did a subtle dissonance begin to hum, a quiet alarm bell that something felt fundamentally off? Have you found yourself entangled with an individual around whom your sense of reality begins to warp and fray? Do you constantly second-guess your own memories, your perceptions, even your core feelings, finding them subtly invalidated or overtly contradicted? Perhaps you experience a profound sense of emotional depletion after interacting with them, a feeling akin to being spiritually hollowed out. Yet paradoxically, you feel an inexplicable pull, a confusing magnetic force drawing you back into their orbit despite the internal warning signs. These experiences, unsettling and confusing as they are, often transcend mere personality clashes or awkward social encounters. They aren't simply indicative of dealing with someone difficult or self-absorbed. Instead, they could be subtle, insidious indicators that you are navigating the treacherous waters of a relationship with someone exhibiting psychopathic traits. This isn't about armchair diagnosis or labeling, but about recognizing patterns of behavior that pose a significant risk to your mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. These patterns are often deliberately obscured, hidden behind sophisticated masks and manipulative tactics designed to disarm and exploit. Today, we embark on a crucial exploration. We will delve into 7 subtle signs you're dealing with a psychopath. However, our examination will not be confined solely to the frameworks of clinical psychology. We will illuminate these signs through the steady, unwavering gaze of Stoic philosophy. Stoicism, an ancient school of thought focused on virtue, reason, and inner peace, offers powerful tools not just for enduring hardship, but for discerning truth from falsehood, reality from manipulation. We will dissect how individuals with these traits operate, analyzing their methods for twisting human emotions, trust, empathy, guilt, into instruments of control. Crucially, we will explore how Stoic principles can equip you with the mental fortitude and clarity needed to protect your inner sanctum, your ataraxia or state of untroubled peace. But before we dissect these dangerous dynamics, a moment for connection. If you resonate with the pursuit of self-mastery, emotional resilience, and personal growth, if you believe in cultivating an unshakable inner core, and I invite you to engage with our community here, please consider liking this exploration if it provides value, sharing it with others who might benefit from this awareness, and subscribing to continue this journey with us. Together, let's forge minds grounded in reason, fortified against manipulation, and committed to living lives of virtue and clarity. Let us build minds that cannot be shaken by the external storms, especially those deliberately manufactured by others. 1. The mask of charm, deconstructing the calculated performance. At first glance, the individual exhibiting psychopathic traits often doesn't repel. They attract. They can radiate a potent charisma, an almost magnetic allure that draws people in. This isn't the bumbling awkwardness or overt aggression sometimes depicted in fiction. Instead, it's a smooth, polished presentation. They seem to possess an uncanny ability to say precisely the right thing at the right moment. They might lavish you with compliments that feel deeply personal and insightful, or share seemingly vulnerable anecdotes that forge an instant sense of intimacy. They excel at mirroring, subtly adopting your mannerisms, echoing your opinions, reflecting your deepest desires and insecurities back at you, making you feel profoundly seen and understood. This initial phase can feel intoxicating, like finding a soulmate or a perfect kindred spirit. You might feel that you finally met someone who truly gets you on a fundamental level. However, it is crucial to understand that this charm is almost invariably a performance. It's not an authentic expression of connection or genuine interest. It's a meticulously crafted calculation, like an actor studying a role. They observe social cues, learn what people want to hear, and deliver a performance tailored to win trust and admiration. Their goal isn't mutual understanding or reciprocal affection. It's often strategic positioning. This charm serves as a tool to lower defenses, gather information about vulnerabilities, and create a positive initial impression that can later be leveraged for manipulation. It's a facade, a mask of sanity, as psychiatrist Hervey Cleckley famously termed it, designed to conceal a profound lack of empathy and conscience beneath. The speed and intensity of this initial connection, sometimes referred to as love bombing, can be overwhelming and disorienting, blinding the target to underlying inconsistencies. Here, the wisdom of Stoicism provides a vital anchor. The Stoics champion truth and reason as paramount guides for navigating the world. They urge us to look beyond superficial appearances and examine the underlying reality. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus advised, we must rigorously examine our impressions. When confronted with overwhelming charm, especially charm that feels disproportionate or develops with unusual speed, the Stoic approach encourages a pause, a moment of rational scrutiny. Is this person's behavior consistent over time? Do their actions align with their flattering words? Are their promises grounded in reality? Or do they seem designed solely to please? A core tenet of Stoicism is a pursuit of virtue arrayed as the sole good. Virtue encompasses wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Superficial charm, deployed as a manipulative tool, stands in stark contrast to these virtues. It lacks wisdom because it's based on deception, not understanding. It lacks justice because it aims to exploit, not respect others. It lacks temperance because it's often excessive and ungrounded. Therefore, a Stoic seeks authenticity and integrity in relationships, valuing genuine character over dazzling but potentially hollow performances. Remember Seneca's caution against being swayed by flattery. Recognize it often serves a flatterer more than the flattered. The Stoic mantra, often paraphrased as, if something feels too good to be true, it often isn't a call for cynicism, but for prudence and discernment. It's an encouragement to apply reason to emotional experiences. While positive connections are valuable, connections built on an unerringly perfect, rapidly escalating foundation warrant careful observation. Don't dismiss your intuition if it whispers that the performance is too polished, the mirroring too perfect. That feeling of slight unease amidst the intoxicating charm might be your rational mind detecting the inconsistencies, the cracks in the mask. True connection builds steadily, revealing flaws and imperfections alongside strengths. Calculated charm aims for immediate capture, bypassing the slower, more authentic process of getting to know someone's true character. Protect your inner peace by demanding substance beneath the style, truth behind the torrent of seemingly perfect words. The Stoic path values enduring reality over fleeting, potentially deceptive illusions. 2. Lies that rewire your mind, the weaponization of deception. For individuals with psychopathic traits, lying is often far more than a mere occasional fallback or a way to avoid minor inconveniences. It transcends habit and becomes a fundamental tool, a weapon wielded with strategic precision. Their deception isn't always about grand, elaborate falsehoods, though it can be. More often, it manifests as a constant, pervasive stream of distortions, omissions, contradictions, and manipulations of fact. This persistent dishonesty is designed not just to deceive in the moment, but to systematically rewire your perception of reality. This insidious process is commonly known as gaslighting. They might deny events you clearly remember happening, insisting that never occurred, or you're imagining things. They might subtly twist facts to reframe situations, making their negative actions seem justified or even your fault. They can contradict themselves from one conversation to the next with utter conviction, leaving you bewildered and questioning your own memory and understanding. When confronted with evidence of their lies, they often double down, perhaps feigning confusion, expressing outrage at being doubted, or skillfully changing the subject. The effect is profoundly disorienting. Over time, the target of this relentless manipulation begins to doubt their own sanity, their memories, their emotional responses, and their intuition. You might find yourself constantly apologizing, second-guessing your perceptions, and feeling perpetually on edge, struggling to reconcile their version of events with your own lived experience. This erosion of self-trust is precisely the goal. It makes the victim more dependent on the manipulator's version of reality, and thus easier to control. This is where the Stoic emphasis on reason and clarity becomes indispensable. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus provided a powerful directive: examine everything. This isn't about fostering paranoia, but about cultivating a habit of critical assessment, especially when faced with inconsistencies. Stoicism teaches us to differentiate between external events and our judgments about those events. The psychopath's lies are external events. Your confusion and self-doubt are the result of your judgment. Specifically, the judgment that their words hold more weight than your own direct experience and rational assessment. Epictetus also taught the importance of testing impressions against reality. When someone's words consistently fail to align with their actions or with verifiable facts, the Stoic approach demands that we acknowledge this gap. Don't ignore it, rationalize it, or minimize it. This discrepancy isn't a minor flaw. It's a significant indicator. That gap, as the original text wisely notes, is precisely where manipulation thrives. It's the space where they insert their distorted narrative, hoping your desire for harmony or fear of conflict will lead you to accept it. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reflected on the importance of living in accordance with nature and truth. Deception fundamentally violates this principle. Recognizing that someone operates outside the bounds of truthfulness allows you to adjust your expectations and reliance on their statements. The Stoic principle of the dichotomy of control is also crucial here. You cannot control whether the other person lies. That is external to you. However, you can control how you respond. You can control whether you accept their distortions uncritically. You can control whether you prioritize their narrative over your own reasoned perception. You can control your commitment to seeking objective truth. Practically, this might involve keeping records, journaling conversations, or events to maintain a clear timeline and counter the erosion of your memory. It means seeking external validation from trusted friends or professionals who are outside the manipulator's sphere of influence. It requires consciously reaffirming trust in your own cognitive faculties, your memory, your perception, your reason, even when someone is actively trying to undermine them. The Stoic path is one of mental sovereignty. Don't allow another person's deliberate falsehoods to colonize your mind. Hold fast to reason, scrutinize inconsistencies, and refuse to abandon your own grasp on reality. The lies are their weapon, but your rational mind, diligently applied, is your shield. 3. Empathy in theory, not in practice. The hollow echo of understanding. One of the most infusing and damaging aspects of interacting with someone exhibiting psychopathic traits is their apparent ability to understand emotions, sometimes with remarkable acuity, while simultaneously demonstrating a profound lack of genuine emotional resonance or concern. Psychologists differentiate between cognitive empathy, the intellectual ability to understand another person's perspective and emotional state, and affective empathy, the capacity to actually feel or share in another person's emotional experience. Individuals with high psychopathic traits often possess well-developed, sometimes even superior cognitive empathy. They are keen observers of human behavior, adept at reading micro-expressions, understanding social dynamics, and figuring out what makes people tick emotionally. This cognitive understanding allows them to mimic emotional responses effectively. They can say all the right things. I understand how you feel. That must be so difficult for you. I'm here for you. They might even mirror your body language or vocal tone to create a sense of rapport. In the initial stages of a relationship, this mimicry can be incredibly convincing, making them seem deeply attuned and supportive. You might share your vulnerabilities, believing you found a safe harbor, someone who truly comprehends your inner world. However, the disconnect lies in the absence of genuine affective empathy. While they understand your sadness, fear, or joy on an intellectual level, they do not feel it themselves. This understanding is not used for connection or compassion, but often as data for exploitation. They observe your vulnerabilities not to offer solace, but to identify weaknesses they can later leverage. They note your emotional triggers not to avoid causing pain, but potentially to inflict it more effectively when it serves their purpose, e.g., during arguments or manipulations. When you are genuinely distressed, their supportive words might feel strangely detached, their actions incongruent with the expressed sentiment. In moments requiring genuine sacrifice or emotional support, they may become dismissive, impatient, or disappear altogether. Their empathy is a performance that runs only as deep as its utility to them. Stoicism provides crucial tools for navigating this deceptive landscape. The Stoics emphasize the summit and the importance of judging people based on their character and actions, not merely their words or superficial presentations. True strength, from a Stoic perspective, comes from clarity of judgment, not from naive acceptance of appearances. Seneca wrote extensively about true friendship, emphasizing shared virtue and mutual respect, a far cry from the exploitative mimicry of the psychopath. A Stoic heart, therefore, is not inherently suspicious, but it is discerning. It does not readily confuse a performance of emotion with the presence of genuine feeling. We must apply our faculty of reason to observe patterns over time. Does this person's behavior consistently reflect the empathy they articulate? When you are truly in need, do their actions demonstrate care and concern, or do they offer platitudes while remaining emotionally distant or self-serving? Do they seem to relish drama or emotional turmoil in others, observing it with detached curiosity rather than genuine concern? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to see things as they are, stripping away the layers of subjective interpretation. When faced with apparent empathy that feels off, the Stoic approach is to analyze the objective evidence. What are the concrete actions? What is the consistent pattern of behavior, especially under pressure or when costly support is required? Does their understanding lead to compassionate action, or does it seem to primarily serve their own agenda, perhaps by making you feel indebted or obligated? Furthermore, Stoicism teaches us to protect our inner citadel, our core self, from undue external influence. Granting someone access to your deepest vulnerabilities requires trust, and that trust should be earned through consistent, virtuous action, not awarded based on a convincing performance of understanding. Don't let sophisticated emotional mimicry bypass your rational assessment. Value demonstrated character, consistency, reliability, genuine kindness shown through deeds, over mere words, however comforting or insightful they may seem. Recognizing the difference between cognitive mimicry and authentic effective empathy is vital for protecting yourself from emotional exploitation. The Stoic values depth, integrity, and action aligned with virtue, qualities fundamentally lacking behind the empathic mask of a psychopath. 4. Guilt. They don't know her. A cornerstone characteristic, often considered pathognomonic of psychopathy, is a profound and pervasive absence of guilt or remorse. While most people experience feelings of regret, shame, or culpability when their actions cause harm or violate moral or social norms, individuals high in psychopathic traits seem largely immune to these experiences. They may understand intellectually that their actions have negative consequences for others, and even that society disapproves, but they do not feel the internal sting of conscience that typically accompanies wrongdoing. This lack isn't necessarily a defiant rejection of societal rules. It's often a fundamental inability to connect emotionally with the impact of their behavior on others. This lack of remorse manifests in various ways. When confronted about harmful actions, lying, cheating, manipulating, betraying trust, causing emotional or physical pain, they are unlikely to offer a genuine apology rooted in felt regret. Instead, they might engage in denial, "I never did that," rationalization, "they deserve it," "anyone would have done the same," or minimization, "it was a big deal, you're being too sensitive." Perhaps the most common tactic is blame shifting. They possess an uncanny ability to twist a narrative, portraying themselves as a victim or arguing that your actions or reactions forced them to behave as they did. They might provoke a reaction from you and then blame you for the ensuing conflict. The goal is always to evade accountability and maintain their self-perception and often their public image as being flawless or justified. If an apology is offered, it often feels hollow, strategically deployed to placate or manipulate, rather than stemming from genuine contrition. The behavior rarely changes, as there is no internal impetus, guilt, driving reform. Dealing with someone who operates without a functioning conscience is deeply unsettling and damaging. You might find yourself constantly questioning whether you are somehow responsible for their bad behavior, internalizing the blame they so skillfully deflect. This can lead to feelings of confusion, frustration, profound injustice, and emotional exhaustion. Trying to elicit remorse or sincere apology becomes a fruitless, draining endeavor. You are essentially appealing to an emotional capacity that simply isn't there. Stoicism offers powerful perspectives for coping with this disturbing trait. Firstly, the dichotomy of control is paramount. Another person's capacity or lack thereof For guilt and remorse is fundamentally outside your control. It belongs to their internal constitution, their nature. Try to force them to feel guilt is as futile as trying to command the sun not to rise. Accepting this reality, however difficult, frees you from the exhausting and ultimately impossible task of trying to change their fundamental nature. Focus instead on what is within your control, your own understanding, your responses, and your boundaries. Secondly, Stoicism teaches us the importance of owning our own role in any situation, but it firmly warns against carrying burdens that do not belong to us. Epictetus emphasized clarity about responsibility. While self-reflection is a virtue, accepting blame for another person's deliberate wrongdoing is not wisdom. It's allowing yourself to be manipulated. When someone shifts blame, use your reason to objectively assess the situation. Did your actions truly cause their behavior? Or are they merely using your actions as a convenient excuse? Refuse to internalize undeserved guilt. Your responsibility lies in your own virtuous actions and responses, not in managing or compensating for their lack of conscience. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about accepting others as they are, acknowledging that some people will inevitably act unjustly or deceitfully. This acceptance isn't passive resignation or approval. It's a realistic assessment that allows you to protect your inner peace. Expecting someone constitutionally incapable of remorse to suddenly develop, it will only lead to disappointment and turmoil. Instead, recognize their nature and adjust your interactions accordingly. This might mean limiting contact, refusing to engage in arguments designed to assign you blame, or clearly stating facts without getting drawn into their emotional manipulations. Think of their lack of remorse as a fundamental operating principle like gravity. You don't argue with gravity. You adapt to it. Similarly, don't exhaust yourself trying to instill guilt where it cannot grow. Recognize the pattern. Understand its roots and their psychological makeup, as far as possible without diagnosing, and use your Stoic rationality to protect your own sense of justice and emotional well-being. Do not carry the weight of their missing conscience. 5. Draining you without regret. Individuals exhibiting psychopathic traits often operate with a profound sense of entitlement and a parasitic orientation towards others. They may enter your life presenting an image of need or vulnerability, perhaps spinning tales of misfortune or hardship that elicit your sympathy and desire to help. However, this initial dynamic often shifts into a pattern where they consistently take more than they give, consuming your resources, be it time, money, emotional energy, social connections, or physical assistance, without demonstrating genuine gratitude or reciprocity. It's not just about needing support during a tough time. It's a persistent lifestyle characterized by exploitation. This draining process can be subtle at first. They might borrow money with vague promises of repayment that never materialize. They might constantly monopolize your time with their dramas and demands, leaving you with little energy for your own needs or other relationships. They might expect you to solve their problems, clean up their messes, both literal and figurative, or provide continuous emotional support, offering little or nothing in return. Crucially, this taking is often accompanied by a striking lack of gratitude. Instead of appreciation, you might encounter impatience if your resources aren't readily available, or a sense that they are merely receiving what they are rightfully owed. There's an underlying assumption that your purpose is to serve their needs. If you try to set boundaries or limit your giving, they might react with indignation, guilt-tripping, "I thought you cared about me," or manipulative accusations, "You're being selfish." The impact on the person being drained is significant. You can experience burnout, feeling perpetually exhausted and depleted. Financial strain can mount if you're constantly subsidizing their lifestyle. Your own goals and well-being may fall by the wayside as your energy is redirected towards catering to their endless needs. Emotionally, you might feel used, devalued, and resentful, yet trapped by a sense of obligation or the fear of their negative reaction if you pull back. They effectively turn you into a utility, an object to be exploited for resources, rather than a person deserving of mutual respect and care. And because they lack genuine empathy and remorse, they do this without regret, feeling no compunction about the cost to you. Stoicism provides a robust framework for countering this parasitic dynamic. Central to Stoic ethics is the virtue of justice, which includes fairness and respecting others. Exploitation is inherently unjust. While generosity is also valued by Stoics, it must be guided by wisdom. Giving endlessly to someone who exploits that generosity without gratitude or reciprocity, to the detriment of your own well-being and ability to fulfill your duties, is not virtuous. It's enabling and ultimately self-destructive. The Stoics emphasize the importance of protecting one's resources, not out of selfishness, but because resources like time, energy, and mental focus are necessary to live a virtuous and rational life. Seneca, in On the Shortness of Life, powerfully argues that our time is our most precious, non-renewable resource, and we should guard fiercely against those who would waste it. Allowing someone to perpetually drain your time and energy prevents you from using those resources for meaningful pursuits, including self-care, fulfilling responsibilities, and cultivating genuine, reciprocal relationships. Therefore, a Stoic approach involves establishing and maintaining firm boundaries. This is well within the dichotomy of control. You cannot control their sense of entitlement or their attempts to exploit you, but you can control whether you comply with their demands. Setting boundaries, saying no, limiting contact, refusing unreasonable requests, establishing clear terms for any assistance offered, is not selfishness. It is an act of self-preservation and justice. It requires courage, another cardinal Stoic virtue, to potentially face their negative reactions, manipulation, anger, guilt-tripping, without wavering in your resolve. Recognize your own worth. Stoicism teaches that our inherent worth comes from our capacity for reason and virtue, not from our utility to others. Refuse to accept the role of a mere resource. Practice self-care not as indulgence, but as a Stoic discipline necessary to maintain your physical and mental capacity to act rationally and virtuously. By protecting your resources and asserting boundaries grounded in reason and justice, you reclaim your energy and autonomy, refusing to fuel a parasitic dynamic that operates without conscience or concern for your well-being. 6. Reckless without responsibility. A distinct pattern often observed in individuals with psychopathic traits is a tendency towards recklessness, impulsivity, and a blatant disregard for the potential consequences of their actions, both for themselves and, more significantly, for others. They may live life in a fast lane, constantly seeking novelty and stimulation, often engaging in risky behavior spanning various domains. Finances, impulsive spending, gambling, risky investments, social interactions, saying or doing inappropriate things, burning bridges, relationships, infidelity, abrupt endings, career, quitting jobs suddenly, violating workplace rules, and even physical safety, substance abuse, dangerous activities. This isn't calculated risk-taking. It's often driven by boredom, a low tolerance for frustration, and an inability or unwillingness to engage in long-term planning or consider future outcomes. What distinguishes this impulsivity is the profound lack of accompanying responsibility. When their reckless decisions inevitably lead to negative consequences, financial ruin, damaged relationships, legal trouble, accidents, they rarely take ownership. Instead of acknowledging their role in the disaster, they are masters at evading accountability. They might blame external circumstances. The economy tanked. It was bad luck. Other people, so-and-so gave me bad advice. They provoked me. Or simply disappear from the scene, leaving others, partners, family members, colleagues, to deal with the fallout, clean up the mess, and bear the emotional and practical costs. There's often a pattern of creating chaos and then vanishing just as the consequences arrive, only to reappear later, perhaps with superficial apology or explanation, ready to start the cycle anew. They seem to move through life like a whirlwind, leaving a trail of destruction for which they feel no lasting burden. Being involved with someone like this is akin to living on the edge of a constant, self-induced storm. It creates immense instability and anxiety. You might find yourself perpetually worried about their next impulsive move, constantly trying to mitigate potential damage, or literally cleaning up the messes they leave behind. You might be drawn into their schemes or find yourself implicated in their problems. The emotional toll is significant, fostering a sense of helplessness and resentment as you bear the weight of consequences for actions you didn't take and risks you didn't choose. Their refusal to learn from experience, often linked to their lack of remorse, means the pattern is likely to repeat indefinitely. Here, the Stoic wisdom, particularly from Marcus Aurelius, offers solace and strategy. He famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This principle is crucial when dealing with someone who generates external chaos through recklessness. You cannot control their impulsive decisions or their disregard for consequences. That is an outside event driven by their character. However, you can control your mental and emotional response to it. You can refuse to let their chaos dictate your inner state. Stoicism encourages prudence, phronesis, one of the 4 cardinal virtues. This involves foresight, practical wisdom, and rational decision-making. When you recognize a pattern of recklessness in someone, prudence dictates that you limit your entanglement in their affairs. Avoid getting drawn into their risky ventures. Maintain clear financial and legal boundaries. Do not make yourself responsible for cushioning the blow of consequences they bring upon themselves through poor judgment. This isn't being uncharitable. It's exercising wisdom to protect your own stability and resources. Furthermore, focus on maintaining your inner order amidst their external disorder. Their impulsivity and lack of accountability are reflections of their character, not yours. Don't internalize their chaos or feel responsible for managing it indefinitely. Recognize that their inability to foresee or care about consequences is their limitation. Use your reason to anticipate likely outcomes based on their past behavior, and take steps to insulate yourself. This might involve creating physical distance, setting firm boundaries about what problems you are willing or unwilling to help with, and refusing to be their perpetual safety net. Protect your mind, as Marcus advised. Shield it from the constant anxiety and instability their recklessness generates. This requires consciously choosing not to be swept up in their dramas, refusing to take responsibility for their poor choices, and prioritizing your own peace and well-being. Their storms are their own making. You don't have to stand in the rain with them, especially when they refuse to even acknowledge the clouds, let alone hold an umbrella. 7. Masters of manufactured chaos. While recklessness might create accidental chaos, there's another level of disruption often employed by individuals with psychopathic traits: the deliberate manufacturing of chaos. For them, instability, conflict, and drama are not always unwelcome side effects of their impulsivity. They can be strategic tools used consciously to manipulate, control, and destabilize those around them, particularly intimate partners, family members, or close associates. This manufactured chaos keeps targets off balance, emotionally dependent, and less able to think clearly or challenge the manipulator's narrative. This strategy can manifest in numerous ways. Triangulation is a common tactic, where they introduce a third party, real or imagined, into the dynamic to create jealousy, insecurity, and conflict, pitting people against each other while they remain in control. They might subtly or overtly spread rumors, distort information, or play different people against each other, fostering mistrust and breaking down supportive relationships around their target. This isolation is key. A person cut off from friends, family, or other sources of perspective is much easier to control and manipulate. They might engineer crises or emergencies, financial, emotional, social, that require the target's immediate attention and resources, keeping them perpetually preoccupied and stressed. Another powerful tool is the idealization, devaluation, discard cycle, showering the target with intense affection and admiration, idealization, then abruptly withdrawing, criticizing and undermining them, devaluation, sometimes followed by abandonment, discard, only to potentially reappear later to restart the cycle. This emotional roller coaster is incredibly destabilizing, fostering confusion, anxiety, and a desperate craving for the good times of the idealization phase, making the target more compliant. The experience of being subjected to manufactured chaos is profoundly unsettling. You feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, navigating a minefield of potential conflicts and emotional upheavals. Life feels unpredictable, stressful, and exhausting. You might find your relationships with others strained or severed due to the manipulator's interference. Your sense of reality becomes blurred as you try to make sense of the constant drama and shifting dynamics. You feel perpetually unsettled, anxious, and emotionally drained, often questioning your own judgment and struggling to maintain a sense of inner equilibrium. This state of heightened stress and confusion serves a manipulator's purpose by weakening resistance and increasing dependency. Stoicism fundamentally stands in opposition to this manufactured chaos, advocating for inner order, tranquility, ataraxia, and rationality. The Stoic path is one of cultivating a serene and stable mind, regardless of external circumstances. When you consistently feel unsettled, agitated, or destabilized specifically around one person, Stoicism urges you to treat that feeling not as mere emotional noise, but as important data. As the original text succinctly puts it, when you feel constantly unsettled around someone, that's a message. Listen, your rational faculty, sensing the logical disruptions and emotional manipulations, is signaling danger. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by events themselves, but by our judgments about them. While manufactured chaos is indeed disturbing, the Stoic approach involves examining our judgments and responses. Are we allowing the manipulator's actions to dictate our inner state? Are we getting drawn into the dramas they create? Are we accepting their framing of conflicts without critical analysis? Use your reason to see the pattern behind the individual incidents. Recognize that the chaos is not accidental, but purposeful. Identifying the strategy helps to depersonalize it slightly. It's not about you, fundamentally, but about their method of control. The Stoic practice of strengthening the inner citadel is crucial here. This involves cultivating emotional resilience, grounding yourself in your values, and refusing to let external turmoil penetrate your core sense of self. Seek out and nurture relationships with virtuous, stable individuals who provide genuine support and perspective, counteracting the isolation tactics. Practice mindfulness or Stoic meditation techniques to maintain clarity and calmness amidst the storm. Evaluate situations logically. Is this conflict necessary? Is this crisis genuine or manufactured? Am I being manipulated through triangulation or emotional blackmail? Ultimately, the Stoic path emphasizes aligning oneself with nature and reason, which inherently involves seeking order and truth. Manufactured chaos is the antithesis of this. Recognizing it as a deliberate strategy empowers you to disengage. You can refuse to participate in the drama, decline to be triangulated, see through the engineered crises, and protect your peace by creating distance from the source of the deliberate disruption. Your tranquility is a precious resource. Guard wisely against those who seek to shatter for their own gain. We have journeyed through 7 subtle yet significant signs that may indicate you are dealing with an individual exhibiting psychopathic traits, viewing them through the clarifying lens of Stoic philosophy. From the deceptive allure of the mask of charm to the reality-bending power of strategic lies, the unsettling mimicry of empathy without feeling, the chilling absence of remorse, the relentless draining of resources, the destructive wake of recklessness without responsibility, and the destabilizing effects of manufactured chaos. These patterns paint a picture not merely of difficult personalities, but of potentially dangerous dynamics rooted in a lack of conscience and a drive for control and exploitation. The Stoics, ancient masters of the human condition, believe that true peace, eudaimonia or human flourishing, comes not from avoiding life's inevitable hardships, but from cultivating the inner resources to navigate them with wisdom, courage, and clarity. Recognizing these 7 signs isn't intended as a tool for judgment or armchair diagnosis of others. Rather, it is an act of self-preservation. It is about arming yourself with the knowledge necessary to protect your most valuable assets: your energy, your mental clarity, your emotional well-being, your autonomy, in essence, your very soul. Stoicism doesn't promise a life free from encountering difficult or even harmful people, but offers a powerful toolkit for maintaining your inner equilibrium and acting virtuously even when faced with manipulation and deceit. Ignoring these signs, silencing that persistent inner voice whispering that something is fundamentally wrong, can have devastating consequences. It can lead to prolonged emotional distress, financial ruin, damaged reputations, broken relationships with genuine loved ones, eroded self-esteem, and even trauma. The insidious nature of these manipulations means that the longer one remains entangled, the harder it can be to extricate oneself and trust one's own judgment again. Conversely, embracing the Stoic principles we discussed, prioritizing reason over reactive emotion, examining impressions critically, focusing on what is within your control, your judgments, your actions, your boundaries, demanding consistency between words and deeds, protecting your time and energy, refusing undeserved guilt, seeking inner order amidst external chaos, and valuing truth and authenticity, provides a pathway to resilience and freedom. It allows you to see through the fog of manipulation and make choices aligned with your well-being and values. So, if your interactions with someone consistently leave you feeling confused, drained, anxious, doubting yourself, or caught in a whirlwind of inexplicable drama, do not silence your instincts. That feeling isn't weakness. It's often your rational mind processing a pattern of harmful behavior that defies normal explanation. True strength, as understood by the Stoics, isn't merely about enduring hardship or standing tall in the face of adversity. It also encompasses the wisdom and courage to walk away when a situation or relationship is inherently toxic and damaging to your capacity to live a virtuous, rational life. Protecting your inner peace sometimes requires removing the source of its persistent disruption. Did this exploration resonate with you? Did it provide clarity or validation? If so, please hit that thumbs up to let us know. Do you know someone who might be struggling with a confusing or draining relationship? Someone who needs to hear this message? Please share this knowledge. Awareness can be the first step towards safety and healing. And if you wish to continue exploring how ancient wisdom can provide practical tools for modern life, empowering you to cultivate resilience and self-mastery, then subscribe to the channel and join our community on this ongoing journey. This is the Stoic Way, where clarity becomes power. Remember the Stoic call. Stay grounded in reason. Stay wise in your judgments and actions. And above all, stay free in your mind and spirit.